Well, we're at an interesting point of the legislative session. We just finished passing bills out of the Senate, and the House passed bills out of the House. So it's halftime, and we decided to go home for a long weekend to have town hall meetings, meet with our constituents. It's an opportunity to do two things. First of all, listen to our citizens and constituents and hear what it is that they care about, answer their questions, and get feedback from them on their priorities. But it's also an opportunity for legislators to talk about the hard choices we're making and the legislation that we're working on. And it's also a time for an interchange about what our values and priorities are. We had town halls all over the state, up and down the Puget Sound area and all the way across the state to Spokane. And sometimes members even teamed up together and did town halls together for a larger geographic area. The town halls in Spokane that were held by the 6th District and the 3rd District were great. They were well attended, over 200 people at each. At my town hall, I was there with my House members, and we were able to field a lot of questions, especially people's concerns about cuts in the state budget on healthcare and human services. And then we had a special section devoted just to education, looking at our education funding formula proposals and getting feedback from people on what direction they'd like to see us go with respect to education in Washington State.
It was great. We had a town hall this past Saturday at Chinook Middle School in Bellevue. Amazing turnout. We had 130, 150 people. People were very interested in the budget, very interested in K-12 education, and then there was a lot of miscellaneous as far as different groups had their people there, whether it was the pharmacists, the nursing homes, GAU spokespeople. So it was a great town hall. I still think people don't know where we are budget-wise. People are still very much in the don't cut me mode, cut the other guy. And if you look at the magnitude of the cuts, we still have a lot of communications to go forward with the general public, for them to understand we are in a budget crisis like we've never seen before, and to think that any program is going to go unscathed is pretty unrealistic in this environment.
We had about 200 people, 230 people show up at two town halls. We ran out of seats at both of them. Each one of us gave a short 3 to 5 minute introduction, and then spent the rest of the hour and a half answering questions and having a dialogue with the people who showed up. Well, it's a much richer form of communication than you get either by email or just by running a poll, or even just doorbelling and talking to hundreds of people that way. This is a place where you actually get people to make comments and ask questions and then feed off of each other, so you get a richer understanding, more nuanced understanding of what people are concerned about and what their interests are.
Well, it was a good chance to go back during the break, obviously, but this is a little different than a lot of town halls. Typically, we get between 50 and 60 people. This drew about 250 people, which is the largest turnout I've ever seen at a town hall. And to tell you the truth, what surprised me most was the tenor of the discussion. I think a lot of us expected to go back and find a somewhat frustrated group of citizens. What I actually found was a group of thoughtful people. Yes, they did have concerns. Some of them had disagreements with specific pieces of legislation or what they understand to be our approach to the budget. But overall, a very thoughtful, civil discussion that exceeded my expectations, and to be honest with you, led me to believe that all of us are kind of approaching this from the same place, that we're all in this together, that it's far too early to be drawing judgments on what the budget will look like, but we all need to be engaged in terms of understanding, what the effects of the possible outcomes are. So from my standpoint, it was a weekend well spent.
The biggest turnout ever for a town hall. We were in the Redmond City Hall, the Redmond City Council chambers, and there was standing room only. And education questions dominated. There were a lot of parents, a lot of teachers, but we covered a lot of issues, property rights and tax issues as well. Well, the value of a town hall is actually valuable in a couple of ways. One, we give information to the folks that are interested who come, and I get to hear. And I'm always also surprised by the number of folks who grab me afterwards and tell me their personal stories one-on-one. But also, it's a great networking opportunity for folks to meet with each other. So I always invite folks from different sides of issues to, you heard the question over here, you heard a comment there. You guys meet up afterwards as well.
Well, we had a terrific turnout. We probably averaged about 80 or 90 people. We did 4 town hall meetings, and I think what really impressed me was not just the turnout, but people seem really interested in digging in on some of the issues that we were discussing. They understand that we face some amazing challenges as a result of the decline in the economy and some of the budget challenges we face. And I think generally we heard from people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and help us get to work on dealing with these challenges.
Most of the people wanted to talk about the services that might be lost. They are people who use those services and depend upon them, ranging from people who are drug addicts to people who are receiving mental health services. And what I tried to do was explain that our obligation as a legislature is to balance our budget with available dollars. Once we've done that, then the public will see how severe the cuts are. And it will ultimately be up to the voters to decide if there's something that should be done to try to buy back some of those essential services that people were talking about. For people who are worried about the kinds of cuts that are coming for the programs that they depend upon, our message was clear. We do care about them and their services, but to do something about that is likely to require a sacrifice from every one of us.